So we got another interesting one in here today. Customer has a Polaris 1000, with the big lift on it, big tires. Had a motor problem, so he has the motor out, gonna get rebuilt. So while the motor was out, he wanted to go through and look at a bunch of wirings. Now, this was all in here when he bought it, so we were trying to figure out what's what. It just really just wires kind of everywhere. It looks like at one point they had a bunch more accessories than what they do now, so we're gonna have to figure out what's good, what's not good. So you can see they have a couple of JL lamps up here mounted, bunch of wires stuffed up on the roof, got an audio control crossover. I've already pulled a couple of the panels out just to try to see what's what. I had this wire just hanging, we're not really sure what it went to. There's auxiliary switches, RGB controllers, but there's just, if you look at the battery trays, there's just wires really kind of everywhere. So one of the projects is going to be kind of figuring out where all of this goes. I'm not really sure what's going on here. This is kind of what I found just opening it up. That's it looks like a world of fun going on right there. You have all these wires over here as well. Really have no idea where they're going, so kind of got some work cut out for us. Really kind of the more I pull down, so I kind of pulled this AC vent down and all of this wiring fell. There's just wires kind of hanging everywhere, not connected to anything. I'm not sure what it went to. I picked up the ignition area here, and there's just wires sticking out of the dash everywhere. There's probably 50 wires in here that I have no idea what they go to. They're just all crimps. I don't even know if they're hot. So this one's gonna be fun for sure. Figured I'd bring you all along. He's also got a new piece to go here because this one is made out of MDF or something and it's bowing, so we're gonna fix that. So we kind of gotta do some work with that as well. I don't really know what is all up here. I mean, there's a lot of wires and crimps and things, so I guess we'll figure that out along the way. There's a ground distribution, which is interesting that there's an 8 gauge feeding 3 more 8 gauges. Same thing with the hot, you got an 8 gauge feeding 2 more 8 gauges, so really what's the point? So got some Memphis speakers here, got a light bar in the front, got some wiring in the back for another light bar. So yeah, we've got some stuff to find. This is not going to be a complete rewire. We're not rewiring every single thing that's in here. Mainly what we're going to do is try to figure out what's not being used, take that and get rid of it, and then try to clean up some of the other wires that are being used. Like, so these wires here, I don't think they're being used, any of them. So all of this can go. It's just kind of laying across everything right here. But some of the power wires here and there I know are being used. I don't know what this is. It's just sticking out right here. So no real idea what that is. So we'll try to make heads or tails of this, and then clean it up as best we can for them, and then we'll see what we can do about getting rid of or changing some of the stuff that we are keeping, because even some of the stuff that's staying has some interesting things to it, like I don't know if you can make that out or not, but a lot of the wires are basically hanging around the drive shaft. So let's see if I can get up under here. So these wires here, I don't know what they're going to, but they're just sitting really on top of the drive shaft. These are tie wrapped so close to the drive shaft that the tie wraps that they put are actually rubbing onto the drive shaft and actually marking the drive shaft. So that's how close they are to the actual drive shaft. So you have like tie wraps here. I don't know why they ran it like that. Seems like there might have been a better spot to run it, but I don't know. So we'll work through some of that and try to bring you along for the ride. Like I said, just kind of basically everywhere you look, there's just wires hanging around. So it's gonna be fun, but we'll work through it, and then we'll see what we can do with it. All right, so a little bit more work we're doing. We're starting to try to figure out some of these wires here. I've kind of got these isolated here. This is the winch wires. I'm not really sure why they're kind of sporadic like that, but we'll get those cleaned up. This is a complete mess. I don't know, I don't think there was any shop that did this. I know the overhead sound bar stuff, I'm sure that was done by a shop. That looks pretty professionally done, just got age on it. This, I don't know what somebody was doing. You've got wires going everywhere. They're running through this grommet, they're going inside. There's probably 15 wires in there that go to nothing. Just trying to track down what's good, what's bad. The way it looks so far, this looks like it's an accessory post. This is a ground post, and this is a hot or a 12-volt positive post. This post has it's connected to that same switch, that battery on off switch in the back. But there's no consistency on how they're crimped, how they ran. They're all crossing across each other here, just waiting to short out. You got yellow wires as ground wires, you got black wires as hot wires, you got red wires, blue wires, gray wires. There's just no consistency to, when you're inside trying to figure out what is what. So basically just grabbing one wire at a time and fishing it out and trying to figure out where it goes. Still have no clue what this bundle of wires is. Trying to figure out where it's going. It looks like it's some type of factory, not factory, some type of pre-made wire from a factory that goes to something. Haven't figured out what it's connected to yet. Inside, I kind of had no choice. I had to pull the entire dash out. I could not figure out where all these wires went without pulling out the dash. So that was a mess in itself, because a lot of these connectors, they're so corroded, basically just broke as soon as you touched them. Like this wire went to one of the light bars. One of them was having an issue. I don't know if it was this one or the other one, but literally it's so corroded, I touched it, it fell off the back of the connector. So that probably is why that wasn't working. But you just got stuff like this just sticking out the dash. You got wires like this. Let me try to get some light on that for you. So I don't know what is going on here, but this is looks like a 8 or a 10 gauge wire with just another, you know, 14 or 15 gauge wire just spliced onto it. And it's literally just wrapped in tape. Then you got another splice just wrapped in tape there. So no real idea where that's going just yet. Then you got stuff like this. I did not cut this. This is how this was. So, you know, you got some of those fabled T-taps that are, in my opinion, the most garbage connector made. Then there's just some cut-ins taped. There's a red and a black, so I'm assuming one of these is this orange wire. I'm assuming is hot. So, you know, just sitting in the dash, ready to short out. Then you've got these bundles of wires. None of these that were like this, none of these were connected to anything. So I'm trying to trace back to see if they're even connected to anything. So then you have this whole bundle of wires down here. So I had to pull the center box out to try to get to some more of these wires, because, you know, as I dug around, I found that. So that's a bunch of fun. No idea what that's about. So we'll try to sort that out. And then when I thought it was over, I started looking in the dash further. And just inside the dash, you've got even more wires just tucked off in, and I'm sorry about the light, the LED's messing up the light. But you know, you just got more wires tucked off in the dash there that I don't really know what they're about. So yeah, this is one of those ones that the more you touch, the worse it gets. What started out as, you know, hopefully just isolating some extra wires and getting rid of them, looks like it's about to turn into just cut everything out and start over. The amount of hours of labor I'll have into sorting all of this out, I could rewire the light bar, the radio, and a few other accessories he's got in here much faster. They just cut all of this out. So we're gonna see what we're gonna do. I don't know just yet. We're still trying to find a couple of wires. We're trying to find the wires that feed this light bar and the light bar in the back. There's one right there as well. This one works sometimes, or was working sometimes. The one in the back is not working at all, and that's two things the customer really wants to get working. So that's what I'm trying to find. I'm assuming, just looking at the way this comes down, it goes down in this corner, so it's gonna be in that bundle that goes this way. So we're gonna try to narrow that down. The back, I don't know yet. I'm not real sure where that goes, but we'll keep you informed. We'll check back in here in a little bit. So here's where we're at. Sorry about the rain noise. It's storming here. So a little update. We're getting things back together. About to start putting the dash panels back in. So fix this up to where it's an actual good connection. We've got this rewired over to here. This is all factory. We ran a bundle of wires across here and have it all tie wrapped rather than just being in the dash. We've got a couple of bundles here. This bundle's for the winch. This bundle is for, I don't remember what it was for, but some switchy head accessories. I think that's for the rock lights. Then we have the controller for the rock lights mounted now here. Relay for the light bar, which it didn't have before. It was just wired in. We also cleaned up everything down here. Let me try to see if I get some light. We cleaned up everything down here. Now you will see, I mean, before there was, 40 wires ran through here, but you will see that there's one or two wires coming through the console straight up and down. Nothing I can do about those. They are the rock lights, and they're already ran and mounted, so I mean, it is what it is. But there used to be a bundle of 100 wires there. I'll try to put a image side by side for you to see the difference. So I mean, that's as best as we can get that. So all of this is pretty much wired up. I'm about to test it real quick and then put the dash back in. It is storming here. Wow. The next part of this project is gonna be this mess. As I pull down, I find more and more. I don't know why there's so many wires going everywhere. I think maybe there was a different system here. They changed this out and just left what was there and wired this in. We did figure out why the JL radio in the front was not able to be found on Bluetooth. And we found this audio pipe Bluetooth controller hidden up in the top. So we could only ever connect to an audio pipe, and I was confused because there was a JL radio in the dash here. But that doesn't work. It doesn't power on, it doesn't work. So it must have went bad at some point. And then instead of replacing it and fixing it in any kind of way, they just threw a Bluetooth controller in directly into that audio control crossover. I talked with the customer, and we're gonna go back with that. He said he's fine with that, it works. So he doesn't want to spend the money to fix the JL radio. It is gonna stay in the dash because there's a big hole cut for it. So you know, in the future, if he ever decides he wants to do it, we can always replace it. There is a set of RCAs that's run up this pillar here that goes to the back, but they're cut. So unfortunately, we would have to rerun another one. But I mean, we could make it work if we ever needed to. I'll show you in just a second. I'm gonna get around over here, and I'll show you what the under dash looks like now. We've got that sorted out. So we'll take this cover off. So if you remember before, there was, you know, 40 or 50 wires just stuck all kind of different ways in here. We've got to kind of narrowed it down to just a few. Some of these are stock wires. We fixed a bunch of these, and some of these were here already. Wasn't really a whole lot we could do with them because of the length, so we had to leave them as is. I also found his diagnostic port. It was no longer clipped here, so we found that. We went ahead and mounted his winch controller. If you remember before, it was just stuck right here. It was taped, so we went ahead and mounted his winch controller for him. So that's mounted as well. So all of this is wrapped up and finished up. So another thing that we figured out along the way, we could not figure out why the rear light bar was not working. Couldn't even find a switch for it. I did find this switch after I pulled the dash apart. I didn't realize it was down here. The customer didn't realize it was down here. I tried it prior to doing anything, and it did nothing that we could find. That it was actually the switch for the rear light bar. It just, one of the wires was broken going towards the rear light bar. So we've now fixed this switch. The customer decided to keep it on this one since it was there. So this is the rear light bar switch. So that works now. So now he has both a front light bar and a rear light bar. So, you know, he won't have the problem of not having to be able to see when he's trying to back up at night. We did discuss possibly throwing that on a switch that could do on, off, or reverse. As of right now, the customer just wasn't interested. He said maybe in the future. But that's an option as well. We could diode isolate that into the reverse lights, and then he could either A, have it on whatever he wants it on, or B, if he puts it in reverse, it will come on. So if he decides he wants to do that in the future, we can get that taken care of for him as well. Alright, so now that the rain has stopped, and you can kind of hear what I'm saying, we'll talk about where we're at. We got the dash back in. You can see that I still have one switch out here. That's on purpose. That is the switch for the remote turn on for all the amps that were up here. I've got it pulled out until we get that sorted out. Then I'll connect the remote wire back, test that, make sure it works. That was a work of art, but we'll get to that in just a second. So we have console back in, all these switches working, winches, lights, all of that's working. This is that JL radio that we decided not to take out because it'd be a big hole here, even though this is no longer working. It wasn't working when we got in here. There's something wrong with it, so they just added another Bluetooth radio to the amp itself direct. We've got this all wrapped up. Everything in here is completed. Just gotta put the cover back on. So now we're back to the back part. Got this down. Really wasn't a good way to video it and try to get it just very tight quarters. Tons of wires in here that we had to go through and sort out. This amp is not going to be used anymore, and I'm really debating on the crossover at this point. There's really not a big reason for it. This was a sub amp. There's no longer a sub in here, so he's got this one JL 500x4 amp here that's running all the highs. There's two Memphis pods in the back, and then if I remember, I don't remember what these are, DB Audio 6.5 kickers, 6.5 kickers, 6.5 kick panels. So debating on whether that's going back in right now or not. We may just do it because he has it. But the problem, the reason why this is all coming down is because this someone decided to make out of MDF. Now, of all the materials to make this out of, I can't understand why anybody went with MDF. I mean, they did a nice job originally. You know, it was covered real well. It's rounded edges, everything about it's nice, but why MDF? I don't know. This is what happens to it after time, right? It's just bowed and warped, so it's just sagging everywhere. The customer supplied a thick, I want to say this is either quarter or, yeah, I think that's 1/4 inch aluminum sheet. So we're going to see about mounting this up there, figure that out. So that's kind of where we're at now. As far as the rest of it, you can see I got the seat back in. I took care of all the battery connections in the back that needed to be taken care of. All of this that's factory, these wires that run in here, we're not doing anything with. They are what they are. You can see them here as well. You know, it's wire loomed, it's taped, it's tie wrapped. I mean, there's really not much more you can do with it. So going through all of that trouble just to really do the same thing would not be real beneficial. So this is what we're going to start with next. We're going to try to get the aluminum up there mounted, and then try to get the amps and things mounted onto it, and sort out these wires. There's a bunch of wires that are up here that were cut. There's RCAs that are no longer, that weren't connected to anything. So no idea where a lot of this stuff, like this stuff was just in here, but it wasn't being used. So I assume it was for something else at one point. So we'll figure it out, and then we'll get the new stuff mounted.